Enough tonight.
Katie, I go back to the line that you had at the beginning of the night, the nauseous optimism turning, as you just said, into waves of nausea. What's happening there now?
Yeah, Adrian, if we can describe the start of this night as having the vibe of a wedding, it is slowly morphing into what feels more closer to possibly a funeral. It's not there yet. It's not there yet. There are these gigantic American flags, like the size of a side of a house. They're a gigantic part of the decorations here. One of the prominent flags was slowly brought down without explanation. And, you know, it could be for a variety of reasons, but when you're bringing down something so symbolic at this kind of a political rally, it sort of has a moment there. It's something that everybody noticed. Everybody put up their... There is a sense of energy and excitement, and it is just starting to build here at Howard University. David?
I spoke to a gentleman today at a polling station here in West Palm Beach, and he was saying, you know, Donald Trump's going to get 65% of the popular vote. He was willing to bet me $100. I probably should have taken that bet.
And Tom, that would have been $100 American. That goes a long way when you get back to Ottawa. All right, that's the CBC.
Like $200 Canadian.
Yeah, at least.
Even though no one within the Democratic Party wants to get ahead of themselves, especially given how close the polls are suggesting this race is and how deeply divided this country is.
You think this is a Harris win?
This party is a party of senior Democrats. We have governors walking around, DNC officials. I haven't heard a single person doubting the outcome of the election. I think people think we have...
Hey, sir, running with a microphone, being like, excuse me, have a little moment for the Canadian public.
It's already begun. Those numbers at the bottom of your screen, that is the count. That will offer the tally of how the race for presidency is playing out. All right, so just draw your attention one more time to the results bar. I almost said mini bar, but it's not a mini bar, it's a results bar. 90 for Donald Trump, 27 for Kamala Harris. There are no surprises there on the board at all, but surprises are coming.
One thing I will say, Adrian, what has happened is that just for a moment, some big screens that are lining the quad here, they started playing some CNN, some American News Network coverage of the results. And when CNN projected that Donald Trump would be winning Florida, the way the crowd started to boo and the way sort of the energy started to just shift just a little bit, it sort of underscores the excitement that everyone has here, but also just the nerves, the edge that so many people are on.
Thank you for having me on tonight. And I have heard a lot of people talking about their anxiety on your show. And so I do just want to start by saying, I know a lot of Canadians are anxious, but I really want people to be reassured, and I want Canadians to know that no matter what Americans choose tonight, Canada will be just fine.
The uniform message out of Ottawa is it's fine, everything's fine.
Yeah. No one wants to panic, and no one also wants to send the message that we won't be able to.
Adrian, I got off the air and went straight to a bar, but strictly for professional reasons. There's a Trump watch party. We're at the Dirty Water Bar.
Well, I mean,
he just said he's going to go have another drink, so we'll see.
Okay, that perspective is very important.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's one of the things that has irked Trump throughout recent history, right? That he's never won the popular vote, and this would obviously turn that on its ear. I wanted to ask about nauseousness, since we haven't talked about that enough tonight.
Katie, I go back to the line that you had at the beginning of the night, the nauseous optimism turning, as you just said, into waves of nausea. What's happening there now?
Yeah, Adrian, if we can describe the start of this night as having the vibe of a wedding, it is slowly morphing into what feels more closer to possibly a funeral. It's not there yet. It's not there yet. there are these gigantic American flags, like the size of a side of a house. They're a gigantic part of the decorations here. One of the prominent flags was slowly brought down without explanation. And, you know, it could be for a variety of reasons, but when you're bringing down something so symbolic at this kind of a political rally, it sort of has a moment there. It's something that everybody noticed. Everybody put up their cameras and sort of took photos and videos of that flag coming down. But we're not seeing the energy we saw at the start of the night. And of course, people are now.
Wow, wow, wow. This is the first time that I've actually watched a Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. I believe that's what CBC stands for. On the Canadian side, our northern neighbors. And I mean, they actually brought the Deputy Prime Minister onto the show to let the Canadians just to have them, calm their nerves? The Canadians, most of the Canadians. It's the same way, I think, folks. It's left coast, right coast, and then flyover country in the middle. And you know as well as I do that the leftist party, the party that are the progressives, the ones that we would call the wokesters, Trudeau and his cronies and his acolytes, you know who they're voting for. You know who the CBC, I believe, although they're kind of subdued, but you saw this reporter here basically just start putting the nails in the political coffin already, saying that this went from, it started sort of like a wedding, start off as a wedding, and now it's sort of marching into, the funeral for Kamala Harris and her campaign, and Tim AWOL Walls. Yeah, that was a great, great metaphor that she brought to this. And then a couple of times when they mentioned the drinking things inside here, I think the Canadians, what are they? A bunch of lushes? I mean, what are these, what are these metaphors with, bars and drinks and those kind of things or whatever? But I would have to say that it seems that CBC seems to be vested in the Kamala Harris win, obviously, but it doesn't seem to be, that you don't see being the homie, hoping for the homeboys, to win. And I really didn't expect that, but you certainly can tell, even though it's kind of subtle and, undertones, who most of these people are voting for, or not voting, are rooting for. Whereas, obviously on the legacy media side, my goodness, you go to MSDNC, MSLSD, ABC or NBC or CBS, you can tell immediately that whoever's on that panel, they're just waiting with bated breath for any good news for the Kamala Harris campaign. Anyways, folks, you're watching the Dr. Nasser Shake Show. I'm your host, Dr. Nasser, giving you a little bit of a reaction to the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, what they were thinking of our election night. Let's get some more and see where this intrepid reporter, are we actually going to be witnessing a funeral pyre of the Democratic Party? I think you know that answer to that question, folks. Let's get it on with some more from CBC.
However long they're in power still.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole other problem.
Right.
When we get to our election, maybe in
that's another 14-hour long
Pierre
conversation.
Poilievre will have to make calls. Yeah.
Absolutely. So if he gets all 7 of those swing states, I hate to ask you a math question.
No, I was going to say, I'm not. It's in my contract. You cannot ask me math questions.
You know what? I suspected that was in the fine print. Yeah, I'll see myself out. Yeah.
Bigly.
That's okay.
Matter to a lot of the people who voted for Donald Trump tonight.
Right.
From cats and dogs, right, to Puerto Rican islands of garbage, all that stuff that seemed like that's the end of it all. There's nobody who can survive this.
All these disqualifying statements.
But the people who were, nobody cared.
They were not disqualifying statements. Oh, here they go, the Canadian broadcasters, bringing all that crap up. If they really, really looked at the polls, which I'm sure our northern neighbors really never did. But to make these statements again, saying, yeah, from the cats and dogs to the Puerto Rican statement, did they talk about Joe Biden's statement at all, calling half of American that supported Donald Trump's, his supporters garbage? Did they talk about the fact that they continually, from Kamala Harris to Tim AWOL Walls, calling Trump Hitler, a Nazi, fascist? Really? Amazing, folks. Just absolutely amazing.
Back to the economy and all that. That's what matters. The other stuff, it's just noise that people like to put in headlines. And we're a party to that.
Yes, you are.
When you would go to a vending machine if you want some, candy or whatever, and you needed to use paper money, because now, of course, you could just tap.
Okay,
whatever.
Caroline, I got to interrupt you. Because Donald Trump has arrived at
political thing. Look what happened. Is this crazy?
Yeah, but if a black South Asian woman can't convince American women to vote for her, that's a big.
But she got the majority of women. If you look at the, she's
sure, but then she would have won if she'd gotten them all, right? Which was what she was appealing to by the end of it. I mean, you guys talked about the gender gap at the beginning, and that to me
isn't that big?
The idea that we've been talking about, that she didn't offer a way to fix things for people right now who feel like the system is broken for them. And the line that stood out to me in that Donald Trump speech was, we had a common core of common sense. And that stood out for me because it's what our conservatives say too.
Correct.
We
that
have
phrase,
a common sense response to what is happening.
We used to say not so long ago that most Americans wanted somebody else, and neither Biden nor Trump.
The double haters, they called them when Joe Biden.
Exactly. So then along came somebody else, and they chose one of the people, but winning the popular vote. It's to me, it's stunning. The comeback, we talked about the historicness of that, etc.
So it does seem the gentleman that's in the middle there, the elderly gentleman, I say that with all due respect. First time I'm basically hearing him, so I'm not exactly sure in this small little soundbite, but it seems that he himself was basically saying that, hey, admitting that we, the news media, we do take that stuff. Even though it's all noise, we do bring that noise in and just make that noise roar like out of a lion's mouth to try to do what? Scare a section of the public. And by amplifying that noise with the megaphone of the media, that sort of was he was intimating over there. But he seemed to be really awestruck by the fact that because the other lady who brought that up, the double haters, people that hate both candidates and have to sort of either say that we're going to sit this one out or pick the lesser of two evils, quote unquote. He seemed really shocked at the fact that Donald Trump had won the popular vote, especially since this whole talk about the double haters. How could that have happened? Well, if he had listened to me or to some of the other pundits out here on the conservative side, he would have known that this is something that we called, and you can check that out. I said that Donald Trump was going to win the Electoral College. I said that he was also going to win. They were going to keep this. They were going to win over the Senate. They were going to keep the House, and he was going to win the popular vote by about 1.5 million votes. So, the Grand Slam Ola from Dr. Nasser Sheikh. Anyways, folks, we appreciate you taking the time to watch. You've been watching the Dr. Nasser Sheikh Show. I'm your host, Dr. Nasser. If you've done so already, you all know what to do. Subscribe to the station. Like, share, and follow us. Take a look at our video links that you'll see in front of you. We've got so many more on our YouTube page. I'll leave you with my final thought, as always, which is, When you're right, you're right. And this is something that Canadians might want to listen to. And when you're left, you're wrong. Until next time, folks, y'all take care and stay safe.